It's largely following opportunity of what arises. Often it's doing something first, so being sort of preemptive and saying, I'm going to try something. It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall, is that the saying?
Yeah.
Like trying something and...
Seeing what sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing what sticks. Often people will have something in their hands they can do. Whether you've studied something, whether you've worked on something in the past, usually there'll be something you can work with. Following opportunity, I really see value in, but you've got to be looking for it and you've got to work sometimes to create opportunity. It'd be interesting as a business owner with employees, the difference between setting goals and setting like expectations. Like maybe, do you think that's sort of like a...
Ooh, therapy session. Here we go.
Do you think that's the driver though, like from a business?
Yeah, mate, this is like semi-therapy session stuff. I think this comes, wow, okay, we're gonna go here. Okay. Yeah. Are you curious about how to spend your life doing what you were born to do? The things that truly light you up and come naturally to you? Well, you're listening to the right podcast. I'm Joseph Bobadilla and I'm a creative business owner running a content creation agency. On the From the Inside Out podcast, we'll meet and interview high performers from all walks of life. If they've got a great story of how they've built something or are simply thriving, doing what comes from the God-given dreams, talents, and gifts that are inside of them, that's who we're going to talk to. So together, let's find out what it takes and the rewards of building your life from the inside out. You know, the thing I love about you, Reuben, is you're one of the people that I really admire because you're just good at so many things. So there's people in my world like Reuben, who just happen to be really good at a lot of things, both creatively and practically. And I think that's like such a cool combination because like you can visualize stuff and then you can build it. That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Thanks, Joe. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
When we were hanging out at your place the other day, just renovated, and I saw the stories of 2 years of you recording yourself pretty much just redoing the whole place.
Yeah, it's been a process. It's been... long and a little bit over it. We're at the tail end now. We're doing landscaping in little bits and pieces, but we love it, and it's been an honor to be able to renovate it. I keep telling myself like positive things about it because sometimes the process has been so arduous and like having my mind split between business and renovations constantly has been such a challenge, but it's good.
It's like 2 jobs.
Yeah, a little bit. I've kind of been like a project manager / like labourer at our house whilst also trying to do my day job.
But I think that's super cool. Like there's people in my world, there's actually only 2 that come to mind straight away who are like super creative, like legitimately can create and visualize spaces and things and then actually physically do it yourself. I just have a real admiration for that.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
I feel really encouraged, ready for whatever's going to come next.
Thanks, Reuben. All right, thanks everyone for watching. And no,
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. No, but I really, really appreciate you making time out of your busy week to come and do this with me.
Big honor to be here and to be talking. And I similarly have a lot of admiration for what Joe does, and I love this space that you're creating with this. I've been enjoying your podcast, and I'm definitely a listener of your podcast as well as now being a guest, which is really nice.
It's so good.
But I love it. It's really valuable, and I have found a lot of joy from listening. So if you're watching this, I hope you find value today, and I hope that you get something out of this. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. I think one of the other things before we even get into the intro and for people to know who you are a bit more is you're also a student of the YouTube arts. And so I feel like... yeah, you're the one commenting and engaging and giving me recommendations for this podcast.
Yeah. Look, I love YouTube. I'm a bit of a student of YouTube. So if I haven't said anything really great yet, but you should like and subscribe to this channel and this video. I just butchered that. You should like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment because it's great for the algorithm, which helps Joe. Love what he's doing. He's putting a lot of effort in. So give him that little bit of your time. And anyway. Didn't do that. I thought that would be better in my head.
That's okay. It's authentic.
Do you find like it hard to do that sort of stuff? Tell people to subscribe to your channel?
I think I forget to do it, which is you were the person to tell me to do that. And so I've been doing that. It's in my notes.
Nice. Call to action.
Yeah.
It's important.
At the end. So thank you, Reuben, for contributing to this podcast without even being on it yet until today. And for those who are now tuning in and have made it through the first 4 minutes, this is my good friend and business owner, Reuben Chant. And so he has been running his own successful building design business out of home, while, as I was alluding to earlier, juggling a full renovation and doing lots of stuff in ministry and having what appears to me as a very full life.
Mm.
You know?
Trying to be a good husband.
Yeah, mate. Dude,
It's a full-time job.
I think you're... it's the best job.
It is.
Yeah.
It is great.
And we've I was about to say we've grown up together, but that's not true. We've grown up in the last 5 years together.
Yeah, we've grown together.
We've grown together.
Yeah.
Since meeting at church. In fact, Reuben, still to this day, I will never forget, you were the first worship leader at Hillsong that I vividly remember because you wore a top hat.
Oh.
On the first service that I saw you lead.
Something I would do. Yeah.
And I was like, that's so cool. That top hat guy, he just owns his space.
That's right. I was a top hat guy. We talked about this after, like recently.
Yeah.
I forgot that it was actually that was what it was from.
I don't even know why you did that, but it was so cool.
It was there. I'm a bit impulsive. I'm like, I'll grab that, put that on.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Anyway.
And I think that's speaks a lot about just how you just don't really care about too much of other people's opinions.
Yeah.
From the outset at least.
Yeah.
You just do your thing and you're doing really well. So props to you.
Thanks, man.
So let's dive into the question that someone has asked you. So the previous guest, Jade Varley, she's my business coach. She wanted to know, what do you love about what you do?
Great question, because I haven't even talked about what I do yet. So this is
We'll get there.
We snuck this in. I love problem solving. So my job allows me to do a lot of problem solving and trying to find solutions. I would call them creative solutions, but they're often more practical solutions to things. As a designer, I'm probably less on the fancy design flair and more on problem solving, pragmatic, like the nuts and bolts of stuff. That's probably where I naturally am more passionate, I guess. I do like to make pretty things as well, but yeah. So problem solving is a big joy, and I love the flexibility that running a business allows me to have. So there's little passions, and you said what I do, not what I do for work. So I make sourdough bread, and I make kombucha, and all these little things that I do them from home, and I'll sort of spend 10 minutes here doing something, and then I'll go back to work, and I have flexibility, which is a joy. Sometimes it's a challenge because working from home and having all your stuff there can be distracting. So I try not to. I have to put some boundaries in place. I can't spend all day making bread. But there's little things I love doing, and the business allows me some level of flexibility. So
I love did you call it the fermentation cabinet?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
In your house?
Yeah. So I designed, my wife helped as well. We designed our kitchen. So part of it was we did a normal pantry for pantry stuff. And then I was like, I want a second pantry that I can just ferment stuff in. So it'll always smell a bit vinegary, a little bit sour. And it's got my kombucha and my bread. And I also make beer, homebrew beer.
Love it.
So yeah, it's just my secret little cupboard.
Man, and he does it well too. And the kimchi.
Yeah, kimchi, yep.
Oh,
yep. I just ferment things. I'm a fermenting guy, apparently.
Yeah.
I like to cook.
Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe I like the process. I like, you start with this product and it's flour and water, for example, with bread. And you have your own natural yeast that you've grown. And then you get this incredible loaf of bread that is top tier, especially because you're having it fresh. It's so delicious. I put it up there with some of the best bread I've had.
Wow.
And seeing that process, maybe that's what I love.
I love that about the way that you approach things. And it kind of, it's one of the things that I said at the top, I admire about people like you. I feel like you're the people that, if we had to colonize Mars, they'd just send you. They'd
Yeah.
I'd just be stuck.
You can't have too many of me though. Otherwise, I can be a bit all over the place. So I need order. So people like yourself, who I know are very structured and organized and just on time, and very valuable as well. So I'm learning to be on time to things. It's been a journey of mine over the last few years.
No,
Punctuality is great.
You've done great in getting here on time.
On time today, a little bit early even.
Yes. Spot on.
Nice. Yep.
That's exactly it. And both of us, our wives are kind of that balancing polar opposite of us. And
absolutely.
So that helps.
Yeah.
Which maybe we'll talk about later. Who knows? But you've already alluded to it, that you're a designer, and I kind of mentioned up top that your business is Chant House Designs. But all the way back to as far as you can remember, were you always interested in building things and making things from scratch? Was that something that came naturally to you?
I love Lego. To this day, I would say I love Lego. But that's probably the earliest maybe indicator that I loved like assembling and putting things together. And I would pull apart Lego and make little random things. A lot of kids do. But I think it is a sign of maybe some level of creativity or like early problem solving. But definitely was a big fan of Lego. And then in high school, which that's a big jump, I'll fill some of the gaps. I really enjoyed doing graphics, which at the time was like drawing shapes and projecting lines from this like flat view to this side view. And I found that really interesting. I think it's like the satisfaction you get of like creating something. I find really valuable. But I've always liked to play. I've always been a bit silly, like to have a bit of fun. And maybe that also has led me into like a bit of playfulness with creativity, maybe. Like trying things, iterating different ideas.
Well, for me, I have fond memories of Lego as well, but I was a weird kid who used to burn Lego and watch it. So I don't know if that says about my early childhood. Yeah, I was a little bit crazy. I had a lot of melted Lego. It's really bad. Sorry, Mum. Sorry, Dad.
It's, at least you can't step on it then if it's melted.
Yeah, that's it. Well, what happened was growing up in Papua New Guinea, like the power would go out all the time. And so we'd go to candles.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm playing with Lego and there's a candle nearby. So like, put two and two together.
Yeah, I
See
see
what
that.
this does. Yeah.
And then you did it again. That's what I like. You didn't just do it once.
No,
It became your thing.
It's like, what else can burn? So, but no, I've seen that, your creativity in many ways, like we haven't even talked about it, but you're also a musician. You played in a band. There's a lot of things you must have explored en route to today.
Yeah.
Like, how did that come about, that high school? Yeah, you can skip to that stage of life if you want to.
Yeah, so I was in bands in high school and I we played a lot of covers and had a bit of fun with that. And it's when I started singing. So I'm a singer. I don't know if, I sing. And I also play a few just instruments. Like I play lots of instruments, not very well. That's how I'd probably describe it.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
But I've always loved music and creating. And I was in a band for, so post high school, started a band with some friends. And we were quite intentional. We toured, we did a fair bit with it. At one point, it was possibly going to become our main thing. That was the goal. It was a passion and something we loved doing, but it was also like, hey, we could maybe make this a thing. We didn't. It's cool. Still a great season of life, and I loved it. And I think you learn a lot through any season you go through, and any experiences you have, you can learn from. But yeah, so I loved music growing up. Creativity was always a big part of life. But yeah, I don't know. With the whole trajectory into business, I didn't necessarily want to go and be a creative person. I think I actually wanted to do engineering, which is funny. I guess you did engineering yourself. So I have an uncle who's a mechanical engineer, and I always thought it was really cool. And I was like, I want to be an engineer. I think I just really liked his house, and I was like, I want a house like this.
Yes.
What do you do?
Yeah. Yep.
And I do like maths. So I'm a
Yep.
bit of a math dude, maths and science. So probably more that way inclined than I am creatively inclined.
Yeah.
I love science and I love like learning about scientific things. So
even with the band, what just curious, like what actually caused it to kind of fizzle?
yeah, so we decided we got to like an all or nothing sort of point. We recorded a full length album. We did video clips and stuff, and we were like, okay, do we sort of make the next step? Which for us in the music genre we were in was like go to the States, because there wasn't a big scene in Australia, what we thought. So we were like, okay, do we go to the States and try to like tour over there and develop more? Some of the guys were getting married, and we were like, look, it's not really feasible. Perhaps we shall just let it lie. And so it didn't end on bad terms, and we still loved it. Like we didn't beat it until it was like this sad little thing. Like we kind of like we sent it off. We did like a big final show and stuff. I think it was more just like this chapter of our life is finished. We loved it, but we're gonna call it to a close.
What was the band name?
It was called For This Cause.
That's amazing. I've met people who knew you because of the band.
Oh, cool.
So you guys have a little bit of like little notoriety here.
Yeah, a little bit of
in
reach,
Brisbane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Around the Brizzy scene.
Oh, wow. Imagine. Hey, that's the thing. It's all part of the journey.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so you decided at some point to just pursue the design route, and obviously the
Yeah.
graphics and everything in high school came there. Did you just go straight into uni?
Yeah, so straight after school, I went into uni to study architecture. So it was between engineering and architecture, and I actually had both on my application. You know, when you submit your 5 things, I had both, and I got accepted to architecture. And I thought, okay, cool, this is a good sign. And so I went into it, and that was, at the time I was like fresh out of school, wasn't even working. Started working in Subway, which was fun. And I actually had my first little taste of management, I guess. I became the manager of the store through various things that happened. Someone left and they needed someone, and I was like, oh, hey. I wasn't even a full-time staff member, but I was like the store manager.
Nice.
It's pretty funny. And at the time, I was also in the band. So I'd go away for like 6 weeks at a time, and I'd have to like make rosters and get other people to do things.
Yeah.
It was a weird time, but it worked. So uni, band, working at Subway, that was like a season. And then finished up at Subway and was like, okay, well, I've got, I don't know what I want to do. I started studying architecture and I was already studying. So I had a friend who was like, hey, I'm a concreter. My dad needs like worker. Do you want to come be a labourer for me? Or for him? Sorry, I'm like butchering this.
That's okay.
So I decided to go and be a concreter with my friend Dom, and I ended up being a concreter for about 8 years, which I found was quite helpful, working with, studying in architecture and studying the creative side and then doing the really practical ground work, digging holes and doing the sort of some of the non-glamorous parts of construction.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. And I thought, I enjoy construction. I enjoy the process and seeing things come to life, seeing a slab get laid, and then you see frames go up, and it's pretty cool. So it was a concrete for about 8 years whilst at uni. And I feel like now, especially reflecting, I've always had like a few things that I'm juggling. Like I've never just like done one thing. So it's always been like multiple things on the go. And I did Bible college for a little while as well in there. So I took a break from architecture and went and did Bible college. That was after my bachelor. So I did a bachelor, and then I did a year of college, and then I tried to do my Masters of Architecture and another year of college at the same time.
Ooh.
Just a bit of a silly idea. It was like my brain was too like split.
Oh,
so
wow.
I decided, hey, I've got to focus on one of these because I can't give myself properly to one of them, or to both of them. So I dropped the college and I went into do my Masters, finish that. And yeah, so that's like, I've always been doing a few different things. And it led me into, the architecture route obviously led me into design. I happened upon a job with an old friend. So my dad had a conversation with a guy I knew from when we were like kids. And this friend, his name's Jason, he was my boss for a few years. He said, hey, I need an employee. Reuben's studying architecture. Would he come and work for me? And at the time I was working concreting. I started doing my own concreting projects. So I was like making some good money and like starting a concreting business almost, or leaning towards that. But then I got this offer and I'm like, oh, maybe I should go and do architecture. I studied it. I probably should work in it.
Wow. Yeah.
But it wasn't like a, study uni and then go into architecture job. It was this weird roundabout way where I did other things. And then I had opportunity and I kind of followed opportunity rather than like really trying to blaze my own path, which is interesting.
But that's kind of led you to obviously what you're doing now. Even in that route, you haven't actually done architecture.
Yeah, well, I'm not an architect. So with architecture, you study and then you have to do all this other stuff. It's like a protected title. Yeah, so because my boss was a building designer, I didn't even know that existed until he offered me the job. And he was like, look, it's kind of like architecture, but we're not architects. I'm like, okay, cool. So I learned what a building designer was, started doing it. And then at some point I actually left him to go work for an architect. So I had a period of time just before COVID actually, where I was like, I've done my Masters now. I want to sort of go and see what it's like in an architecture firm and upskill a bit, learn some stuff that I haven't been able to learn with my current job. So I went and got a job in a small firm on the north side.
Okay.
And it was cool. I learned a lot. Actually, got a lot of skills that I then brought back to my, brought back to my other boss. So I went there, worked for about 6 to 9 months maybe, enjoyed it. It's really cool. And then COVID hit. And because we were in commercial architecture, there was a bit of pressure on the industry, and there was a bit of like a bit of uncertainty. So uncertainty there, but my old boss reached out and he's like, Reuben, I've been busier than ever. Would you consider coming back and working for me again? And I'm like, I just left you. Stop trying to pull me back. And but no, he sort of was like, I need someone to help me for like 6 months whilst he could finish his study that he was doing at the time. And he's like, and once you've done 6 months, I'll help you launch your own business. So that was really the step into my own business. I wasn't necessarily chasing that. But when he offered that, I'm like, okay, do I follow the architect route, which is just work for firms and get experience and eventually become an architect? Or do I go this route where I start a business? And pretty hard decision to make because both were valid, and I kind of wanted to do both. But I decided, hey, this is a very unique opportunity to have someone sort of help me start a business and then also give me clientele, which is what I ended up doing. So I followed that, and I finished up at the architecture firm, which kind of was okay for them at the time because they were like uncertainty. So it probably made things a bit easier for them. But yeah, so it was a strange start into business. I would say I always had seen the desire to run a business. I'd always seen the appeal for it, but I wasn't necessarily like, I'm going to run a business and it's going to be like at this stage of my life. So again, following opportunity, I sort of like saw the opportunity there and pursued it.
I kind of see that kind of in the way that you're wired as well. You can try a few things at the same time, and then one of them sticks, and then you kind of go down that route for a bit.
Yeah.
And so now, even as we've had chats recently, you've kind of said to me that you're still considering this stage of business and career.
Yeah.
How do you feel about how do you feel about career at the moment, like in general?
Yeah, so and I probably communicated this to you before, I'm like a little bit of an unsettled person, I think, I've realised. In like retrospect, I think I maybe have like a tendency towards new things, shiny things. So part of me is always thinking about something else. Okay, I'm like doing this thing and I've got the skills for this and I've got the ability and I'm working on this, but I'm like, my brain's a little bit over here. And it's actually quite annoying. So it's been a challenge of mine to say, okay, how much of this is valuable and what's the value I can get out of this? And how much do I need to like just tell myself to like, no, bring it in and focus on what you're doing. But yeah, I definitely would say that I am, as you mentioned, I run a business and it is successful. It's profitable, low overheads, good cash flow, which are like two great things in a business. So it's awesome and it can keep going. And I've got clientele and I've got builders who sort of rely on me now because I work for them ongoing. So there's definitely a lot tying me to the business. And I'm definitely not like, oh, I'm just going to like throw it away next week and try something else. But my mind is also always thinking about the potential of something else.
How do you kind of make decisions around that? Like, what's your process of deciding if it's time to jump and try something new?
Yeah, I think I've said it twice already, but I think the following opportunity has been a big thing. And I try to do right by people because I'm a bit of like a people pleaser. So I very much weigh people's opinions highly. So for example, leaving the architecture firm was really hard for me because they didn't want me to leave. They were okay with it, but it was really hard because I'm like, I want to please both. I want to go and help my old boss with what he's doing, and I also want to stay here. And it was partly because I wanted to please the people and make them happy, as well as like following what I wanted to do. So your question was,
it was
how to make the decisions.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
yeah, it's largely following opportunity of what arises. So often it's doing something first. So being sort of preemptive and saying, I'm going to try something. It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
Like trying something and
seeing what sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing what sticks. And so doing something before I jump, I think that's a big part of it. I don't leap out into the unknown. I'm probably a bit more reserved in that respect. Like with the business, I tried it on the side. And even when I transitioned to my own business, I did it like I stepped. So like 1 day for myself, 4 days for my employer, 3 days, 2 days.
Yeah.
And it was actually like a really cool
yeah.
ability to do that. A lot of people have to go fully into business, whereas I sort of had this thing where it was my like side thing, and then it became my main thing. So, but making the decision's hard because I've got to value. I have to value security, And especially now that I'm a husband and looking to start a family in the coming years, having security of a job and something that pays well and is regular is really valuable versus me trying new things because I'm passionate about them. So I'm always in a tension between, okay, what do I just want to do and what am I super excited about and what pays the bills, what is giving stability to my life and helping me support a family.
Great perspective. At the moment, what do you feel you're getting the most energy out of?
Yeah, I like what I do. I don't love what I do. It's definitely not like my biggest passion. Design, even architecture, I studied it, but it wasn't like I love architecture and I live and breathe it and want to be an architect. So I enjoy what I do because I can find enjoyment in it. But the things that light me up, my passions, are probably outside of that, and I'm probably exploring still to a degree, where I'm exploring like, okay, is this what I want to do, and is this like what I want my life to be all about? And it's not really, and that's a funny sort of thing because in business usually you kind of throw everything into it, you go all in, whereas I've still almost got like 1 foot in, 1 foot like slightly out.
You kind of alluded it up top, to be honest, because you said the things that you love doing are the problem solving and the kind of on principle activities that can be applied to different careers, but you just happen to be doing something now that you're skilled at.
Yeah.
If you don't mind sharing, is there anything that you've been thinking about recently?
Yeah, it's yeah, okay. I'm like, I tell people this, but it's almost like a little bit embarrassing. But I've had a real passion, as I mentioned before, about YouTube, and part of me is like, would love to do something kind of like this. So whether it's a podcast, whether it's a video podcast. And I've been a student of YouTube for the last 12 months, and I've just been like learning so much about the system and about just different things. There's just so much to learn, and it's really like it just lights up my like creativity and my passion. So if I were to do anything, it would be like, I love Joe Rogan, and I'm not like him in temperament, but I love what he does, and I love having conversations.
Yeah.
I love unpacking ideas and talking about stuff. And so I think like if I could find an audience that enjoyed listening to me enough to follow me, and I would love to just do that, just to talk and share ideas and talk about things. So it's actually really cool being on this podcast because it does sort of like scratch that itch a little bit for me, and I'm like, oh, this is exciting.
Yeah. Do you like the format at the moment?
Yeah.
Sitting down here, just talking.
It's really cool. Yeah, and it's very professional. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Are there specific things or topics that you think you'd like to explore if you're doing this podcast? Or is it something you're just going to throw things at the wall and see what sticks?
Yeah, I think a little bit of the spaghetti tactic, because there's a few things that I'm passionate about. And so my mind changes. I don't know if you've realised this about me, but I'm a little bit like, my brain sort of shift gears a bit. So
it's good.
So, yeah, it is. It is great. Sometimes as I said before, it's a bit frustrating. But there's lots of different things that I have thought about.
Yeah.
Nothing's really stuck. I actually made one podcast with my wife. She was my first guest, where I interviewed her. It was a bit like satirical, like a bit funny, a bit like kind of dry humor, a bit awkward. And I'm like, I don't know if this is it. Like I enjoyed it. And the entertainment factor, I've watched it like 4 times because I find it really entertaining.
I really want to watch this.
Yeah, I'll waste 20 minutes of your life with it one day. But I'm like, I don't know if this is it though, because I also love trying to do things that add value to people. Entertainment is valuable. Entertainment is important and great. And people will probably watch this partly for entertainment and just because it's like, I work as an accountant or whatever I do, and it's cool watching a podcast, some guys talk. Like it's like we're kind of like all here and in the room and we're having a chat. But like valuable content I also really admire. So giving people practical things, sharing your story is valuable. Sharing your experience is valuable because people can learn from that.
Are there any particular topics that you feel like you resonate with? Because adding value can mean a lot of things. Like you said, it could be educational, it could be entertainment or edifying or however you want to say it. Do you feel swung towards anything in particular? Or are you just going to, again, try all of it? Like, is it the entertainment? Are you going to, talk about a certain topic?
Yeah. I think having some entertainment is a given. I think I couldn't do something really dry like a journalist. I could do like maybe something like that with a bit of a fun, silly take. But I think
Top hat.
Yeah, with the top hat. We talked about this actually. The top hat guy. I think with anything I do, I'd like to bring a bit of fun to it, and like I want to have fun doing it. Otherwise, why would I do it? Yeah, exactly. So if I'm having fun, and it's also bringing some level of engagement, not engagement. Well, engagement's important because you need people to enjoy it. Yeah.
Authenticity is huge, right? Like even for me, this is only 7 podcasts in, but I'm like, if I'm putting on a character that I can't sustain, I don't think I could continue it.
Yeah.
Whereas having these real chats that I guess this interests me and this gets me going, like hearing the things that are going on in your lives and the attitudes you have towards growth and towards pursuing purpose.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me to ask maybe a kind of off the cuff question. But do you feel like even you may not have, maybe you do have words for it, do you feel like there's a bit of a purpose or a mission behind life at the moment for you?
Yeah, good question. I am kind of exploring that still. As I mentioned with my job, I don't see direct, like great purpose in what I do. I provide valuable service to customers. So for them, it's great and it's valuable. But for me, it's like, is this what I want to do with my life? I guess that's the purpose question is like, what do you feel is bringing value and what is it you want your life to stand for? And I think for me, that's not about design and legacy in what I build and create. I think it's more about the relationships and the conversations I can have, the value I can put into individuals. I think I value that more than what I can see built.
And so it's a continued journey at the moment, just exploring the thing that will lead to the thing.
Yeah. Yep. And it may very well be that I'll always do the one thing as a career, and I'll have another thing that'll be a passion project. And I talked about this a lot, especially with like if I decide to do like a podcast about a specific thing, there'll be a few years of just like it just being a thing that I do.
Yeah.
And doesn't get much traction perhaps. And so I'm like, okay, well, what's that look like for my life? I still want to have a family. I still want to support my wife and future kids. I still need to make an income. So I think I will, at least for the foreseeable future, I will run the business and maybe even expand the business a bit. Because I think expanding it'll tie me more to it, but it'll also free me up from it a bit. I feel like there'll be a bit of both of that. So building the business, but also doing the thing on the side as the passion thing. That's what I see. And I think at the moment that is like creating interesting content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think from what I'm hearing and what I know of you, you've got a lot of priorities in order. Like you've got family and your worldview and your faith up top pretty high, and then it kind of sounds like the career it's working, which is amazing, and you're doing things, but you're still willing to explore and find that purpose. I think not too many people try to figure that out. And I think that's again why I wanted you to come on this podcast, is because you're still in the throes of figuring stuff out, but you're at least giving it a shot.
Yeah.
And what would you say to people who perhaps are in a situation where they're a bit discontent with what they're doing and maybe even as deep as life meaning, but they haven't actually, like, they don't know what to do next? What would you say is kind of like a fundamental first couple steps?
Yeah. I think doing something is a great first start. And some people get stuck at that. They get like decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Paralysis. Paranoia. Paralysis.
That's the one.
Where they're just like really afraid to do something. Often people will have something in their hands they can do. Whether you've studied something, whether you've worked in something in the past, usually there'll be something you can work with. And doing something is always better than doing nothing. But I think I mentioned this, and I think this conversation's actually helped me clarify it more. Following opportunity, I really see value in, but you've got to be looking for it, and you've got to work sometimes to create opportunity. It doesn't always just happen. You've got to put yourself in positions, conversations, put yourself out there a bit, and you've got to be open to seeing opportunity. Like if you're just so in what you're doing and in the weeds of it, you won't see what perhaps is happening around you. So for me, maybe I look sometimes too much at what's happening around me, but it's helped me to see opportunity and then take opportunity, and I've found a lot of great value in following those things. So for people, wherever I guess they're at, keeping an open mind to various opportunities that come along, and doing what's in your hand, even if it's like not that sexy, maybe. Like I perhaps don't love what I do. Sometimes I might like draw like a carport, and I'm like, this just doesn't light my day up. But someone needs a carport. It's practical for them, and I'm like, and they're going to pay me for it, and this is a great exchange, great value exchange. But so there's things in my job that I love and they light me up, but there's a lot of things that don't.
And that's okay.
It is okay, yeah. It is. Like, it's okay to sort of have a season where you're not sure about things. And, you know, your career trajectory is not linear, I think, for most people. For yourself, I know that's the case. For me, definitely, as you've heard about different things I've done, I think that the average is 5 to 7 career changes they estimate for most people, which is right. Which is crazy. So do something that you're doing, do it well, like do it the best you can, but having an open mind to opportunity and, you know, being a bit creative, a bit playful with what you might do next.
Yeah.
Is a good way to live.
100%. I love that. I love how you summarized it. There's a lot of things that are coming to mind now. I don't want to get lost in them too much, but it's just like that whole, maybe there's a season of saying yes to a lot of things for people. Like people hear other people who have kind of walked the journey say things like, you need to know what to say no to, and there's boundaries. And I understand all that, but it's like in a season of discovering about yourself, you need to say a lot of yeses to figure out the things that you're going to say no to over time. Yeah,
that's great.
And it's kind of that pathway of discovery. And like yourself, the last guest on the podcast, myself, not a linear journey, but that whole thing of preparation, meeting opportunity at the right times. Like you have to be preparing something. I've been reading the book Diary of a CEO by one of my favorite podcasters, Stephen Bartlett. And the very first chapter, so valuable. I'm probably going to butcher it, but the idea of the 5 buckets of kind of life in terms of business and work, where you got to fill the buckets in the right order, where it's, you know, bucket 1 is your knowledge, or it's one or two are knowledge and skill. So you got to know stuff, you got to have a skill set. Then number 3 is network. Number 4 is resources. Number 5 is reputation. And it's like fill the buckets in the right order so that you can actually have a, you know, fulfilled life and career. Whereas some people say, well, pick a job for bucket 4 of resources because it pays well, but they're not getting buckets 1 and 2 of skills and knowledge.
Yeah.
And then they do it in the wrong order, and then all of a sudden it's messed up, which is my experience. Like I've done that before.
Yeah.
But I think what you're doing and what you've been successfully doing is filling up the knowledge bucket, filling up the practical skill bucket, and now you're in the process of building the network bucket and the resources, and you'll have a reputation that you're building. Yeah. And it's going to lead to the right path, I think.
Yeah.
My very little life experience from what I can see from what you're doing.
I'm an optimist, so I would definitely agree with you. Yeah. And you always make a way, you know, there's always a path forward.
Yeah.
And so I totally agree with what you're saying without, you know, telling you that I'm going to be successful. Like I will always be doing something, moving towards those goals. And so, yeah.
And I think that's one of the most important things. You're a person that is doing things. Yeah. A lot of people with your temperament have a lot of ideas, but they don't action anything. Yeah. So at least, like you said, it's a bit messy. You're throwing the spaghetti at the wall. Yeah. But you don't know what sticks until you throw it.
Yeah, and this probably belonged earlier in the podcast, but what you said, you've nailed it in that I have a lot of ideas, and I have the frustration with myself in the past has been that I have so many ideas and I don't do them. And I wrote a little caption on my phone once, and it said, it was like a really simple phrase. It was like ideas aren't action or something like that. Yeah. But it was on my wallpaper on my phone for like a year because I had so many ideas, but I wasn't implementing things. And I thought I need to implement something. I need to do something. So for me, it was what's in my hands. What have I got the skills to do? What am I reasonably good at doing? And I'm just going to start doing that and then work it out on the road, rather than getting like so stuck in trying to figure out what it is that I'm going to do. Because sometimes you don't know until you start something. So that's been really valuable, just like hitting the road. And it's funny that you talk about me being someone who doesn't just think and not do, because I've often felt that. So I feel like a bit of an imposter, you saying that.
I think it's the perspective of kind of micro actions versus like macro. Like over a couple of years, like I've seen you do things.
Yeah.
You may not have felt as quick as you think, but you did those transitions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be learned from that.
Mm.
I believe. So have you picked up along this path at the moment? Has anyone given you solid advice that you've actually actioned and then seen work?
Joe has actually given me some fantastic advice in the past. So I'm trying to think of some specific examples. So me and Joe catch up probably every couple of months. We'll have a coffee and we'll have just to sit down and talk about life and business and marriage and church stuff and all different things. And I find those catch-ups really valuable. And so again, that's why I felt really honoured and really excited to be on this podcast because I love what you do. But you've been very good at encouraging creativity in what I do. And for someone who, like yourself, is very organised and very like I don't feel like you're kind of chopping and changing your life all the time. I feel like you've had a pretty, maybe you're like, oh, you don't agree with that.
No.
You can have a little joint therapy session.
Yeah.
But I really value the encouragement that you've given. I have a few different mentors in my life who offer me business advice. And one thing I'm great at doing is like meeting with them and then not doing what they've told me to do. So like when you asked this question, I thought of the things that I haven't yet implemented. And there's been a few that I haven't implemented. Like one of them is time tracking. Might as well talk about it. So something that a business mentor, I guess, said is track your projects. See what time you're spending on different things to see where you're distributing your efforts. And I haven't done it yet. And I haven't met with him again because I'm like, I can't meet with you again until I do the thing. Yes, exactly. For his sake, I want to respect his time. And I'm like, if he's told me some great like business advice and I haven't done it, then I don't deserve his time. So that's one of them.
That's great advice.
Yeah. So thank you. You've probably also given me that as well because I know you do that quite well, don't you? Well, you have systems and.
Well, that's the thing. So I've been really good at time tracking. Just for the sake of time tracking, to look and learn from the data behind it. But again, I think the previous guest, my business coach, that's been one of the most valuable things that I've ever done, because someone who's looking over it but keeping me accountable, because I pay her money to do that, and and I get in trouble if I don't do it. Sorry, Jane. But that's one of the exercises we've actually been doing at the moment is that. But instead of me just looking at time and going, oh, cool, I spent 60% on client work this week, which is good. We're actually getting to the nuts and bolts of it. So we're actually doing things like, okay, what is that? What is this activity in your business? How much does it generate per month? How many hours do you spend doing it? And a key thing was like, do you find satisfaction in doing this thing? That's another one that we measured. And then throughout all of it, to be able to look at all the tasks and go, this is what you should be doing. This is what you shouldn't be doing. Yeah. Not just by gut feel, but actually the data of going, so something like, for example, invoicing, right? I could outsource that to a bookkeeper, but I weirdly find a lot of satisfaction in invoicing. I just think it's nice because I'm like, we accomplished a thing. Yeah. We're going to get paid for the thing, so I want to invoice it. I want to send it and go, yes, please pay us for this work we did. Yeah. Is this sponsored? Are we sponsored by Xero for this podcast? Or? Please, Xero, beautiful business. Please. I use Xero. It's great. Yes, please sponsor, and I will put the referral link in the description below. But the mind-blowing thing, right? The mind-blowing thing I'm still figuring out, and I'm, again, actions, right? 1% action, 1% a week is 38% better in a year. Anyway, one of the things that I'm learning about this for me is the reality of where my time is spent in a certain part of the business, which is marketing and sales, which I thought by gut feel I need to spend time in it. But then we looked at it and are drawing it up, the amount it brings, plus my satisfaction level in it, I should be doing it like a lot, because it's like on paper now, if I spent all of my time marketing and sales, we could literally 10x the business, but I can't, not this very second, but it's like looking at it going, oh my gosh, that makes sense. Yeah. And it wasn't until that whole time tracking exercise, because as much as I enjoy filming, as much as I like certain parts of editing, it's like the reality had looked in the face. Yeah. And you can't do that until you have the data. You have the data. Which is just like logging those minutes and those hours. And it's pretty painful. Yeah. But yeah. So have you got systems in place? Have you got like software, or is it like a spreadsheet? Or? It's a Word document. Oh wow, a Word. Not it's even just Excel. A Word document. I mean, we track, like for me, I track stuff on my phone through an app, which I actually am trying to figure out if I should still do or if I should just log it somewhere else. But yeah, that's been practical. Yeah, cool. So I don't know how we got on that topic.
We wanted a practical thing, Joe. That's what we wanted.
Very exciting.
Word document.
Well, yes. Well, that's the thing, right? As small business owners, sometimes the flashiest stuff isn't the most important thing to do. It's like a fancy CRM, amazing, or a fancy project management software. But like if it's not being used, you're just paying another $100 a month for something you can do on Google Sheets.
Yeah. And if you're doing it for the sake of doing it, but not finding value, then it's just time that you're spending. Like you said, if you're just collecting the data and being like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
I spent 20%
Cool
doing
data.
this. Yeah. Like you've just wasted that time. You could have just done something else.
Yeah.
But if you're actually analysing it and utilising it,
yeah.
then it's helpful and valuable.
What have you learnt in your, is it 2 years since you started Chant House?
2020 I started, but 2021 full-time.
What's your biggest lesson?
I think it's a lot about relationships and providing value to people. Sounds really cliche, maybe I'll unpack it. In business, I offer a service. And so it's like a transactional relationship where the person needs something and they know that I can do it and I do it for them. But I think there's more, I find value in the relationship and helping them through the process. So I'm not just giving them the product, like at the end of the day, I'm helping them like through the process. So, because people come to me and they don't know what I know. They don't know the process. They're like, hey, I just want to build a house. Like, I don't know what to do with that. Can you help me? And so rather than me just going, here, let me just like give you a house plan.
Yeah.
I can provide a lot of value to them. It's partly reassuring them that they're doing the right thing and they're in the process and that it's going to produce an outcome, and taking them through and teaching them about the process. I actually really enjoy teaching people, like explaining the process of certification and engineering, the different processes you have to go through. I enjoy that, and I often give that service just like freely. Like I just have phone calls and talk to people for maybe 10 minutes who I never actually have as a client, and explain to them, hey, this is actually these are the things you need to do, and because people just don't know. So I like teaching people stuff, and I think that usually leads to great opportunity. I think when you give out free advice and you're generous with your time and you're generous with your what you can offer, which is for me is a lot often just expertise or advice, that comes back. So you'll often find return on that, whether it's they'll come back as a client, or I've had new clients come to me and say, hey, this person told me, and I'm like, that person wasn't even my client. And it's that I had a conversation on the phone, I gave someone time of day, and I walked them through something, and I created a meaningful exchange with them. And they've then gone away and they've talked to someone else in their lounge room who wanted to build a house, and they've gone, oh, you should talk to this guy. He was really nice and he was good to work with. So the personal approach is really important. And especially now as a small business, it's just me. I'm like, everything I do is a personal approach, because it's like you call, you get me. You email, you get me. Like I don't have admin staff. So I really like the being available. And I think that's really valuable in business. A lot of builders have come to me and they've been like, I just want someone who I can call on the phone, have a 2-minute conversation with, and that's it. And I don't want to talk to some, get through different admin people and have to wait for a call back. And they're like, we really value that. So I don't want to lose that. And I think part of the fear of scaling a business like this is that you put all these other steps in place that people like hit and go away. So if someone had called and I wasn't available and they went away, I could lose potential business from that. Whereas if I'm the person they can talk to, I can provide direct value. So that's not necessarily going to help someone who wants to scale a business and someone who wants to grow something quite large. But for someone who wants to be perhaps like what I am, I would call myself like a business owner, but I'm probably more self-employed. Like I run a business from the outside. People see Chant House and they're like, oh, it's a design studio. But it's like me in the background. And that's actually a really viable business. And some people have in their minds that they have to scale a business and grow a big thing to be successful. But I think what I run is successful. Like as I mentioned before, we are, definitely profitable, and it's supporting my life. And so like it's a very viable business running it like this. And so there's a tension, do I like expand and grow, or do I keep it niche and really personal? And I really value the niche personal side of it. So that's why I probably haven't grown at this stage.
I feel like you could record a lot of touch point videos and things like that to help kind of automate some of it.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future there's a bit of a course you could offer as
Yeah.
well, you know?
Yeah,
Get some of that
interesting.
time back.
Courses, good YouTube
There
strategy.
you go. Yeah.
Online courses.
It's something I'm looking into at the moment.
Great. With editing or business stuff? Or with like...
I'm not sure.
Cool.
Maybe both.
Yeah, cool.
Maybe all of it.
Do it all.
Long term, right? But again, it's like seeing what other people are doing and going, that looks like alignment of values, alignment of goals. Like there's a guy I've come across recently through Annie, who's done a lot of good stuff, and he's now like a creative business coach, and we are hit with all his ads. But fun fact, we also signed up to his course, so we are also consuming the content. But he's just done a phenomenal job of doing it. And I'm like, now I'm seeing it, being inside that world as a viable like business thing to be a full-time educator.
Yeah, cool.
You know what I mean? And it's interesting, and it's making me think about what that could look like.
Yeah.
You know, building a community and building valuable courses and doing that from, I guess, anywhere in a way. But, you know, like it's something that I wouldn't have known about if I didn't see it.
Yeah, and that's it, you know, tapping into the world of like the reach you have online. Like I'm brick and mortar business. You, to a degree, would be a brick and mortar business.
Yeah, definitely.
But like the reach you can have through something like a course or through the internets is so broad, and it's a new world in business. And
if I was to put you on the spot right now and say, if you had unlimited time and money, what would you do?
I would create a really cool space, and it would have like working spaces where people could come in and like use it as a collaborative space and do what I do. So other sole traders and freelancers could work in, but it would have like a studio space attached, and not dissimilar to this. Be able to like host conversation, and I love it. I love that you're doing this, and I love that it's something I'm also really passionate about. But that's what I think I would do. I think I would have interesting conversations with people, and I would try to have a bit of fun, and I would try to produce something that's has valuable content, teaches people something.
I think it's very viable. I want to be part of that. Why not?
Yeah, all right. Come over.
Right. No, that's a really cool dream to have at the moment. It's, you know, practically it's something we're thinking over as to what the next stage is with like our physical location.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the idea of having this, for those who don't know, watching the podcast, we have to manually set this up and then tear it down. To have a space where we don't have to do that would be like the dream.
Which for you guys as well is super viable, because this is what you do, and this is a really cool space that these guys work from. They're in another area in this building. Really cool space, and it's awesome that you have this room to use, but it would be cool to have like a permanent one set up.
Yeah, it would be so good to just turn things on and then record and then
Turn the lights off at the end of the day and leave.
Absolutely.
No pack down.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, that's, you know, one of these things that we just remember these moments because it's part of the journey. So when we are able to do that, we'll get to look back and go, do you remember that?
You'll appreciate it more.
There's been a lot of that.
Yeah.
For me. There's been a lot of that. I think one of my favorite things that happens every day is Google Images or Google Photos will just keep flicking me 5 years ago this, 1 year ago that. Look back at this memory, and it's, you know, sometimes it's spammy, but a lot of time I'll open it and go, oh my gosh, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird things that happen, you know? And I think we can all, like, even for you, I'm sure you could look back for 2020 and do a bit of a scroll back and just wonder how far, think about how far you'd come.
Yeah, it's crazy when you look how, like, in the moment, I've been reflecting a lot on the idea of underestimating what you can do in an hour and overestimating what you can do in a day, which I think for some people is the opposite. But for me, that idea, and it ties in with what you're saying, is like, you'd be like, oh, wow, that was like 2 years ago. I've come so far since then. It's really cool seeing that. And I think we often underestimate like what's happening day by day. When we're in it, we don't see the big picture. So it's nice reflecting. But that idea for me has been really interesting recently because I can sometimes do so much in an hour. And an hour of like focused, deep work where I'm like on a task, I'll get something done that I thought would take me half a day. I'll do it in an hour. But then I've got like 3 tasks for a day and I get 1 of them done. And I'm like, how am I not, like, I've been doing this for 3 years. How am I still so bad at like estimating my time and how long things will take. So it's an interesting thing I've been learning in business. How have you found that? Do you find that you underestimate or overestimate? Well, sorry to flew it back on you. Hope this is all right.
I think my team would probably agree that I tend to underestimate how long it takes to do stuff. Underestimate? Yeah. So like I'll imagine something should take, say, 16 hours and it turns out to be 20 or 24. Maybe it's just unrealistic expectations. But with my, if you're talking about just a day-to-day thing, funny enough, it's definitely an area of improvement. Like the previous guest, Jade, who's again my business coach, she said, 3 to 5, there's 3 to 5 tasks. She says this to me all the time, but she said it on the podcast. There's 3 to 5 tasks in every 1 week that will move the business forward, and people somehow do all the other stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And don't do the 3 to 5 tasks that will move the business forward. And it's convicting to hear that. And especially when I look at the task list and go, I didn't do it, because I just keep adding all the other little things that seem to be feeling like there's progress. And then the rocks don't get hit.
Yeah.
It's a journey, man. I think, I'm still making the same mistakes in some ways, but the idea is hopefully over time get better and just iterate.
It'd be interesting as a business owner with employees, the difference between setting goals and setting like expectations. Like, okay, we want to try to aim to get these things done, and you kind of want to be optimistic perhaps with your goals, but you maybe also need to keep like margin for things to take longer. Maybe that's what, because you're trying to be optimistic, you're trying to say, hey team, let's work hard and let's get stuff done and let's get through these things this week. But in reality, maybe like if there's hiccups, it's going to take longer. So you've allowed in the back of your mind for the extra time it's going to take, but you still want on the front foot to be like, let's try to get this done within this time frame. Maybe, do you think that's sort of like a
therapy session? Here we go.
Do you think that's the driver though, like from a business? Because you're a boss now, Boss Joe.
Yeah, this is like semi-therapy session stuff. I think this comes. Wow. Okay, we're gonna go here. Okay. Yeah. I think this comes from the way that I built the business and my underlying attitude towards business. Wow, they're getting vulnerable. Okay.
I love it.
Because I built the business from nothing. Like, literally had to use my credit card and have never taken finance other than a credit card. So I've kind of always been a little bit on the back foot cash. So I think where that's kind of come into play is I've always erred on the side of having less resource to do what we need to do and stretching, rather than having too many people to do the work, just so that the cash can be maintained. So again, it's worked to this point of up to 5 years, and I'm seeing the holes in that system. One of them being we tend to underestimate how long it takes to do stuff, and especially if there's like a lot happening, kind of missing things and actually genuinely not having enough resource. So now I'm spinning it the other way and trying to figure out how do we have more resources on hand to fill the gaps when needed, like now. So that's probably it. It's probably been a bit of just my underlying attitude of I don't think it's scarcity mindset. It's just more of kind of always had to make do with less than needed. Yeah. And there was always that first 2 years of me being the only person doing it. And then as I've started to learn to trust people and to, see people take ownership of things, still trying to let go a little bit of like, this is how much it would take me to do. Therefore, I think everyone should have the same. That's a big one. I think that's a big one as a technician. So again, this is getting into vulnerable territory. As a technician building a business bigger than myself, I've had to learn that everyone does things differently. Yeah. And everyone has different capacities. So I have to also factor that capacity with the job, with the client, and kind of find a happy medium for everyone in the hope that we win as a team and the client is happy.
A win-win, yeah.
So it's a bit of a juggling act, and I think it's like we're getting better. Matt will probably like look at this and go, "What the heck are you talking about?" But I think we're getting better. Like we've gotten stuff to the point where things are more profitable, so we can have a team. And that's been fun. And now, I think only now this year it's kind of onwards and upwards. I think so. Yeah, I don't know how that went.
Yeah, that's great.
That's an explanation.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Therapy session.
Yeah, love it. Tell me more. How did that make you feel?
Well,
No, I had another question, which with business. Sorry, and this is
this is
I'll,
great.
I'll answer.
For those listening still with us, this
Yeah.
is just how we normally catch up.
You're now
at this point.
You're now in the deep end. So I've been trying to value or revalue my time and my service, because I was being told a lot, hey, you're really cheap, or like, oh wow, you're like, that's so cheap, and I'm like, I don't want to be like, that's like kind of good because it means I'm winning work, but I'm like, I don't want to be like, firstly that reputation is not great, but I'm like, do I want to be cheap? And on one hand, I'm like, well, I'm making money, they're getting a service, like everyone's happy. So I'm like, do I need to charge more? And so I've been in this tension of like, what does the industry charge? Do I need to try to meet like an industry minimum? Or do I charge what I think is fair? Or do I charge like, do I give like a bargain sort of deal so I can win more work? And that's been a weird tension where I'm like, ooh. I tried, because I recently
Let's
sort of...
strap in.
I recently sort of put some of my fees up, and I'm like, okay, because I talked to some friends and they said, you probably should charge more. So I'm like, okay, I'll creep things up a bit. And I think I lost maybe my first one or two jobs that I really ever have noticed losing because I was too expensive. And I was like, how do I feel about that? I'm like, 2 weeks ago, I would have done this job for the price that would have won the job. But this week, because I put my prices up, I actually didn't get the job. And they told me, they said, hey, we actually got this other guy who quoted this much. And I'm like, I don't want to, like I can maybe sharpen the pencil a little bit, which is like, make it a bit cheaper. But I'm like, I kind of want to be here in the market. I want to be in the middle of the pack. I don't want to be the cheapest. And so I let that job go.
Oh man, I think you kind of, that last sentence you said kind of summed up a lot of it from the outset. Middle of the pack's a really weird place to be. Hey, we're like, again, in some level of transparency, we are still running middle of the pack in a lot of stuff. But at the same time, I've noticed that our project values are just continuing to increase, which means we're heading towards the higher end. For better or for worse, what I've noticed that meaning for us is our target audience has changed. So in our context as content production, it means we're working with less solopreneurs and more big companies.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. And then we learn, what does that mean? Do we enjoy it? So it's like the kind of a headshot concept of what we can do as a skill, what the market has, and like, do we actually like it? The bit of the Venn diagram.
Venn diagram, yeah.
And like for me and the team at the moment, like we haven't talked about it a lot, but that's changed the work we do, changed the caliber of what we have, what people expect of us. I'm liking it. And so what that means is we're trying to move towards the higher end of the scale, again, for better or for worse. And I think there's, in your context or in anyone's context, like there comes a song's just starting to come to mind. There comes a time.
Sing it.
When we hear this
Sing it,
certain
John.
call.
It's got a
and
beautiful
the world
voice. If
will
you haven't
come
heard him
together
sing,
as one. No,
it's actually fantastic.
I think there comes a time, right, where we all have charged a certain amount and then we've capped out, or we've realized we don't like the kind of work. And I think it's probably just a question of like, number one, do you like the kind of work that you're getting at that price point? Like number two, do you have the capacity to do the work? Like it kind of starts there, I think. Like, do you like it? Is this the target audience you're chasing?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because one of them I let go. I was actually kind of sad because I'm like,
Right.
I actually would have really liked to do that job. It was a cool old Queenslander in Coorparoo, and I'm like, it would have been a really cool reno to work on. And I was like torn, because I'm like, I can't just turn around. I don't know how it looks turning around to a client saying, hey, actually, let me just like take $1,500 off the price. Like it felt like, it just doesn't feel like professionally that's a good move. Because I'm like, well, why did you charge me so much in the first place, bro? Why are you trying to rip me off? I don't want to rip people off. I'm trying to like provide like value and a win-win. Like you get a good product and a good price.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that actually? Have you ever like just heavily discounted something because you're trying to win the job?
Definitely in the early days, 100%.
Yep.
100%.
And you think that's okay for like in the early days?
I think everyone needs to get work somehow, right? Like you can only get work a few ways. Warm outreach, cold outreach, paid ads. Well, I'm just quoting Alex Hormozy at this point, but yeah, there's a point, right, where like you can't sustain the level of work that you're doing, / you don't want to do it anymore. So like even me and Annie are talking about how we build the weddings business next year. And we've talked about it. Like, we have the options. You can stay budget or middle of the road and get anyone and everyone, or we can be really intentional and say we actually want to target this type of wedding, this type of price point, and only do X amount per year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That means that our offer will look like this and it has to present like this. For better or for worse, we will probably get a lot of no's, but we might start to get the yeses. And I think like part of that is also like, are we showing the work we want to do more? All that marketing stuff.
Show Your Work, great book.
Show Your Work. That's a good book. Yeah, very good book. But yeah, I think in general, it's just like that question of coming back to it. Like, do you like the work you do? Are you okay with the price point? I think raising price in general has to do with just like, are you doing too much and you can't handle it?
Yeah.
Are you not content with what you're taking in, or are you trying to scale? Like, if we're adding more money to our top lines, like, there's got to be a reason why.
Yeah.
Like, are we trying to be more exclusive? Are we trying to angle towards a higher target audience? Are we trying to pocket more at the end of the day?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the tension, because I'm like, I don't want it to feel, or I don't want to do it because I'm just trying to make more money. Or I don't want it, even within myself, I don't want to feel like that's my motive. Like, oh, I can get more money out of these people, like I put my prices up. I want it to be like, to have a reason. And that's why I've been hesitant for a long time to put my prices up to closer to the market value, because for a long time I was undervalued.
Yeah.
I was like doing stuff. I was still making good money. I'm like, this is fine, because it's, again, low overheads.
This is not business advice at all. I'm not a business coach.
Yeah.
We're just having a chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen to episode 6 of the podcast for the actual business coach.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like, you're happy with where things are at.
Yeah.
So it's like the question of, are you just trying to make the tweak because someone else has said it, or are you actually just genuinely not happy with how things are going?
Yeah. Or part of it is also that like trying to, if I increase value, and I work hard. I've been doing like long hours, and I've been working a lot. Since I started the business, I've been putting a lot into the business. Working a lot of hours and making sacrifices in other areas of life to give more attention and time to the business. So I'm like, can I afford more perhaps time by offering a slightly more premium price, giving a slightly better service, because I have less clients to service, so I can give them more attention, I can give them a better experience, but I can also start to buy back a bit of my time.
Yeah.
And that's like a principle I've been sort of thinking about now a bit more, where I'm like, okay, I'm still early days in the business, so I'm not here like trying to figure out my end game, but just finding a good balance, especially as I go in towards having like family, having kids.
Yeah, totally. I think like from what I'm hearing is like you're just trying to get more of your time back. So there's only going to be, you're saying if you're basically at a point of you probably need to take less work at a higher cost. Yeah. Just overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like tweak that balance a little bit. I don't want to go too far.
Yeah.
Like where I turn away heaps of work and have no work, and I'm like, oh geez. But like it's like I'm trying to turn those dials.
Because it's either going to be that, or you're scaling. Like past yourself. And I guess that's a point of decision there. I've also heard people say, and again, something I've learned from experience, you can do a lot more. If you're trying to like increase the profit in the business or whatever it is, like you can do more, but more coming in than trying to control the overhead as well. So like you can there's no quote, I'm going to butcher anything or any way I say it, but it's like it's easier to handle if there's more money coming in than it is to try and tweak overheads and like lessen expenses. You can just do more with more. Yeah,
just make more.
So if you're making more, you have more options.
Yeah.
Good therapy session, man.
Thanks, man.
Do we have any other questions together? I can't think of anything. This is fun. All right, I want to ask you before we keep going down our therapy session. Right? Yeah. The person who's coming next, we don't know who it is. What do you want to know from them? What do you want to ask them?
Do I make it saucy? That's the question. Got a thumbs up.
Saucy.
Oh, no, this is a bit boring. But I would say, would you ever consider, because I imagine the next person you have will be someone in business, yeah?
It could
Runs
be.
a business.
Probably.
Would you ever, could you ever work for someone else again, just for like a capped sort of salary, safe, nice, regular hours, not selling your soul to a business? Could you ever go back? Because someone asked me, would you ever just go and work for someone? And I'm like, nah, I don't think I could. I love this, and it's hard. Like running a business is hard, and you take on a bunch of extra pressure and stress and different things. But I'm like, I love it, and I don't think I could just fall back into another role. So was I supposed to answer? I probably shouldn't have answered that.
that's
I'm
great.
sorry.
No,
For the next guest.
I'm tempted to answer, but I'll save
Yeah,
it for
go
the
on.
guest. No, I'll save it for the guest. No, I'll save it for the guest.
Yeah. But it's an interesting thing I've thought about, because some people have said, oh, well, you know, especially when the business is like, I'm causing a lot of stress and a lot of like, man, I'm just like, I feel like I'm on the grinding wheel.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, would you just go work for someone else? I'm like, nah, it's hard, but I love it.
Yeah.
So is that like, I wonder if that's a common thing, like if everyone feels like that.
Can I answer now?
Yeah, now you're allowed to.
Yeah. All the time. Yeah, no, I shouldn't answer. This is for the next guest, but really, I think vision, values, vision, and like your own personal, values and vision have a lot to do with it. I think if there was, for whatever reason, if there was an opportunity with a bigger vision that aligned, that I felt my personal vision and values could fit into, and there was better opportunity for me to see that impact happen, then I would consider it. But I don't think I would want to automatically. It wouldn't be like it, but that would cause me to consider it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like for me at the moment, damn, I'm not supposed to answer this question, but
No, this is great.
it's for me at the moment, I feel like what I'm doing is on track with mission. That's my life purpose.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
But others may not have that answer. So hopefully the guest of the next podcast hasn't tuned in to hear the spoiler. But no, I've really appreciated it.
Maybe they'll disagree completely with us. Maybe they'll be like, no, you both are wrong.
And that's the interesting thing about this podcast is having conversations with people who have just different worldviews, different opinions, and just hearing people's opinions.
Yeah. Hopefully I've given enough of my opinion without being too opinionated.
I think personally, you've done an amazing job of being a guest. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming.
for having me.
And thank you for actually making it a little bit of a interactive conversation between us.
Well, I love what you have to share, Joe. So I am glad you were able to talk a bit about it today, and I'm sure you will more in future, because you have a lot of valuable. You're a student of a lot of great content, and you've implemented a lot of things. So you have a lot of value to offer. So I love that you're doing this and you're creating space for other people to talk about their story. And I'm excited to see you to continue to grow as a host, and also being able to add your value and insight, because I think you have a lot of great things to say. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Make sure you subscribe. If you're still here and you haven't subscribed, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Get all that. Just press the button and like it.
But don't just do that for us. How can people find you? Where can
Don't look for
someone
me.
find you online?
I'm hiding. No, so my business is called Chant House, and Chant House Design. Maybe if you search that, I'm on Instagram and different things. I don't actually do anything on social media, which this could have been a whole question in itself. My social media presence, online presence, very sad, and it's partly just because I haven't given it time, because I've been blessed to have lots of other work, and it's an interesting thing when you've got paid work, trying to commit a lot of time to like things that don't seem directly, which we touched on a little bit earlier. But sorry. Anyway, so you can find my Instagram. I've got like 3 posts on there.
Amazing.
Just just become my friend on Facebook maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Come join a life group.
Yeah.
Connect group.
Yeah. My wife and I are very involved in our church, and we do a lot of small group ministry, or involved in that aspect. So we love that, big passion of ours. But yeah, don't find me. Don't you dare look for me.
All right. Well, we won't look you up, but thank you.
Chant House Design. If you want to design, if you need a house design, or if you want to renovate, you want to build something at your house, call me and I'll just tell you what to do. I'll at least point you in the right direction, and I might be able to help you.
Absolutely. And he is good at what he does.
I am.
He
I'm
is
a master.
He is a master. So thanks everyone again for tuning in. Hope you had a lot of value out of this conversation. Any feedback, we'd love to hear it. Please give us what's the thing? What should I do? I know you've done it 2 or 3 times.
Like,
now.
subscribe, comment. Comments are great. Let us know what you think, especially if you made it this far. Tell us that you made it to the end.
Thank you. Actually, what should they comment if they made it this far?
Maybe like not a naughty word, a secret word. Naughty's not. Don't say naughty on the podcast. That was the one rule for this podcast. Don't say the word naughty. Maybe like the number 0, because it's a naught. So it's like a reference to this moment we just had where I said something I shouldn't have said.
Right. Okay.
Like
so
a 0.
drop a 0 in the comments, but give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
That's the good one. That's a good metric.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you so much, Reuben.
Thanks, bro.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.